So let's put it in reverse. We've moved the manual valve from park through neutral to reverse. And when we did that, we allowed our fluid pressure. I guess I can't do that. PR fluid was already filled, remember, so our low reverse clutch was already applied. That's the one up here in the case. We already have that applied. That was applied in park. When we moved our manual valve over to reverse, and again, this is indicated by the indicator going over to R, we allowed some of our PR fluid, which is at line pressure, because they're all connected together, so it's at whatever line pressure is, which is why the fluid is red still. That goes into our reverse fluid passage. If you follow reverse fluid, goes down to the reverse abuse valve, which is seated, spring-loaded in the closed position. So fluid doesn't go past the reverse abuse valve. It is instead going to go up to that number 3 check ball that you see right there. This check ball is going to seat, so the fluid is going to flow through the number 17 orifice, which is going to slow down the buildup of pressure, and it's going up to our boost valve, which is going to do what to line pressure? Going to raise our line pressure because it blocks off the flow into the decrease passage. We send a little over to our pressure switch assembly to change the state of that hydraulic switch. So that switch is normally open. That's what the NO means. So when we pressurize it, we close it to ground. So the PCM is sending a voltage out on that circuit, and it's going to see the voltage get pulled low. That's how it knows we're in reverse. We went through our boost valve to boost up our pressure, and then went on up to apply our reverse input clutch. Notice the exhaust, the captured check ball right up here. That's to do what? Bleed air out. That's all it is. And that's usually going to be located in the pump. So when you guys take a look at your pumps, you're going to see these little captured either bleed holes or check balls that allow air to bleed. And then we go over to our reverse input clutch housing where we can apply our reverse input clutches. That check ball is going to seat. That check ball is there to release any residual pressure when we release the clutch. Because this thing is rotating with the input shaft and housing assembly, fluid that remains in there after we release the clutch would get thrown out through centrifugal force and partially apply the clutch, which would lead to burning up the clutch over time. So that keeps that from happening. Are the solenoids used? Do we need these solenoids to get? No. Reverse is hydraulically achieved.
That's why it's so reverse boost power.
Yeah. Looking at neutral, nothing changed in terms of mechanical power flow. We still got the weight of the vehicle keeping the thing from output shaft from moving, even though our park pawl is no longer applied, so we don't have it locked from turning. Torque is coming in from to our input shaft and housing assembly, and just like in park, we're rotating the input shaft and housing assembly in the steels, but nothing else is happening there. Torque stops. Hydraulically, nothing, let me see, what did change in neutral? I guess that's important. We exhausted the reverse clutch fluid at the manual valve.
That's what the arrows backwards mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and if you follow those back, you're gonna see where they exhaust, and in this case, I thought they were exhausting at the manual valve. But let's look at that for a minute.
It has the forward clutch accumulator as a exhaust for it's going out. Or no, that's not that.
Yeah, they are exhausting right at the manual valve. You can see that right here at this land. So that fluid is exhausting at the manual valve, and those clutches are being released by spring pressure. So just to reiterate this part, when we apply the clutches, they are applied by hydraulic pressure. When we release the clutches, they're released by spring pressure on this transmission. On some of the newer transmissions, in the 6Ts and Ls that you're going to be looking at, we're releasing the fluid with spring pressure again, but that release is being assisted by hydraulic pressure. So we're actually gonna use, besides releasing this fluid pressure, we're gonna use pressure on this side of the piston to help release it, to help control the timing of the release and apply of clutches more accurately. But in this case, it's released by spring pressure, and that's the same thing with our low reverse clutches too, as you can see. The clutches, pressure builds up here to apply, and they're released by spring pressure. Square cut O-rings on the low reverse clutches. Lip seals on the reverse input clutches. These are two lip seals. Notice the lips always face the pressurized side of a hydraulic circuit. That way, when we pressurize this side, the fluid's going to push against the lip and push it tighter against the surface that we're sealing. If you put the seal on backwards, the fluid's just going to flow right past the seal, and you're not going to have any applied.
The solenoids are on and neutral too.
Say that again, please.
The solenoids are on and neutral too.
Yes, they're energized.